Sensation. With this word, in 1990, European media reports began on the appearance of the avant-garde Renault Magnum for its time. Now this car has gone through 3 generation changes and has become commonplace even on the roads of Russia and the CIS countries. It is valued for the maximum level of comfort and high performance, and the carriers call him none other than the ideal trucker. However, there are spots on the sun. The newest Magnum was released in 2005. By this time, the flagship of the French company took 3 places on the podium of the prestigious European Truck of the Year competition. It won in 1991, took silver in 1998 and bronze in 2002. Everything speaks not only about the high assessment of the model by its specialists, but also about the recognition by professionals from different countries. The model range includes truck tractors, chassis, and flatbed vehicles with 4x2 and 6x2 wheel formulas with a gross weight of 18 to 26 tons. Magnum is available in 15 wheelbase options, from 3920 to 6820 mm, which makes it a universal merchant. True, in Russia the range of use of the flagship is quite narrow. It is mainly used as a truck tractor for long-haul transportation on international flights. And one of the most common modifications in the Russian Federation is Magnum 480.19. In the 3rd generation, the Magnum version with the new DC-13 engine with a displacement of 12.8 liters and 500 horsepower is attractive. It appeared on the market last fall and meets the Euro 4/Euro 5 standards. The motor weighs 1,140 kilograms, is equipped with 2nd generation unit injectors with an injection pressure of 2,000 bar. Its peak torque of 2450 Nm falls within a wide RPM range of 1050 to 1400 RPM. The OptiBrake Plus engine brake delivers impressive performance with 510 horsepower of deceleration. However, Russian transport workers prefer to buy this version of the car exclusively for international cargo transportation. In our country, the use of such equipment is still considered an unjustified luxury. Repairers and carriers unanimously claim that the Magnum is less of a problem car than its smaller brother, the Premium. When using semi-synthetic engine oil, the maintenance interval in Russian conditions is half as long as the European one and is 40,000 kilometers. If we take into account that the optimal load of the car is about 120,000 kilometers, it turns out that Magnum must visit the service zone at least 3 times a year. But, despite fewer problems, he still has them. Injector pumps in American Mack engines often become a headache for Russian carriers. This is especially acute when they fail somewhere far from busy highways. As a rule, there is no branded service nearby, and in order to fulfill the conditions of transportation, you have to look for a replacement car. In such cases, you have to think about a tow truck in the second place. High-pressure fuel pump in Russian conditions remains operational for 2 years, and in rare cases lasts longer. Carriers have noticed the following pattern. As soon as the maximum period of the factory warranty for a car ends, the high-pressure fuel pump necessarily breaks. You can blame the quality of domestic diesel fuel for this as much as you like, but this does not make it easier for transport workers. Fuel injector nozzles cause real envy of our drivers to their European counterparts. If in the EU nozzles serve for 5 years, then in Russia they have to be changed annually, and in some cases more than once. The cause of the problem is the low quality of diesel fuel, and primarily dirt and foreign mechanical particles. Bending of pusher rods is a typical pattern of operation in a cold period of time. The problem is especially acute when frost sets in below -20 degrees Celsius. In severe frost, the camshaft pusher rods rot, usually 1 or 2. In 90% of cases, this is due to the use of low-quality oil or its untimely replacement. Let me remind you, the recommended oil change and maintenance interval is 40,000 kilometers, and the way out of the situation is to replace the pusher rods. In cold weather, the breather freezes. As a rule, this occurs at high humidity and a steady decrease in ambient temperature to -25 degrees Celsius and below. But there are cases when the problem made itself felt under more favorable natural and climatic conditions. The malfunction manifests itself very simply. The engine starts to drive oil through the filler neck. Webasto heater tanks also do not withstand the harsh Russian winters. The problem is that their cases are made by casting. The nuts are soldered into plastic, which becomes brittle at low temperatures. From vibration, the places of docking burst, as they say, with all the ensuing consequences. Individual pumps fail solely due to poor fuel quality. On new cars in Europe, they nurse without problems for 4 to 5 years, but in the conditions of the Russian Federation, These parts, there have been cases, were changed twice a year on the same car. To increase their service life, it is recommended to use the SEPA 2000 filter separator and refuel at proven gas stations. The accelerator pedal needs to be replaced due to moisture ingress failures. The reason is design features. Because of them, water, melted snow, dirt, road reagents, de-icers get inside, onto the contacts, and the assembly fails. It cannot be repaired and must be replaced with a new one. The rear stabilizer is one of the most vulnerable parts of the suspension. It suffers especially quickly when operating equipment on roads with a weak bearing surface and canvas defects. For example, in Czechoslovakia there are many roads on which the asphalt simply fails, although there are usually no signs to limit the axle load on such sections. Stabilizer bushings in Russian conditions are broken after a maximum of 200,000 kilometers, or even much earlier. The solution to the problem is this: arrival at the service station and replacement. There is no other way out. From a technological point of view, the separator heating relay is located extremely unsuccessfully. It constantly rots. To eliminate the causes of the malfunction, it should be placed in a place well protected from moisture penetration. As the practice of transport companies has shown, no homemade measures to protect the relay from premature failure do not give the desired effect. Uneven wear of the brake pads is expressed in their grinding at a certain angle. It is celebrated by carriers even of those companies where there are not one or two, but dozens of such cars. At the same time, road trains make different trips both by geography, and by duration, and by load, and by weather conditions. Perhaps this is caused by a defective caliper. The factory is working on it. But the pads take care of more than 200,000 kilometers, which is very good. At a company service, they are often recommended to be changed after 160,000 kilometers, which is not always justified by the realities of operation. The springs on the brake pads of the front axle are very weak. On separate machines, they take off on almost every long-haul flight. In general, they often fly out, perhaps due to high vibration loads. However, this problem is typical not only for Russian transport companies. In the Republic of Belarus, for example, famous for its good highways, this problem also occurs. Well, where, pray tell, to experience big vibrations on the M1E30 Moscow-Brest highway, on the way from Minsk to the border with Poland. And there's nothing to say about Europe. They watch the roads there, be healthy. And the problem is that you can't buy these springs separately. They come with the pads. In other words, you need to spend time and nerves searching for them. The buildup of the cabin caused complaints from the owners of the first-generation cars, but it is also characteristic of more modern modifications. To eliminate the floating of the cabin, according to the operators, it is necessary to install a fourth cabin level crane to level the floor. According to carriers, Renault Trucks agreed with their arguments and promised to fix this problem back in 2006. Dirt on the handrails accumulates in any weather, but, above all, in rainy and inclement weather. Blame it on aerodynamics. Perhaps, deflectors should have been installed at the corners of the cab for a more optimal distribution of airflows, but the designers seem to have come to terms with this shortcoming. And drivers are no strangers. They even composed a tale about this. How can you recognize a Renault Magnum driver in a crowd of colleagues? On the hands, they are always dirty. A comfortable cabin has been and remains one of the main trump cards of the French flagship. During the release of Magnum first and second generation, it was the largest in its class. And on a third-generation car, in terms of usable volume, it is second only to the DAF XF105 cabin. Due to the flat floor with an area of 5 square meters, the convenience of movement of the driver and his shift is ensured. The height under the ceiling is 1.87 m, which allows you to stand without bending. A well-thought-out geometry and a large glass area create a good overview. Conditions for the driver's rest are almost ideal. Equipment. Unfortunately, for Russia there is no special budget version of the flagship of the French truck industry. But for the money, the optimal equipment remains available. International carriers tend to prefer the classic cab with a suspended driver's seat, a swivel passenger seat and a 1900 x 700 mm fixed sleeper. It has drawers under the sleeping bunk, refrigerator, air conditioning, power windows. In a word, there is everything you need. More powerful engines than on the premium model make the Magnum even more attractive to hauliers looking for maximum performance. A car imported from Europe with a mileage of 450 to 550,000 kilometers in Russian conditions takes care of at least the same amount without overhaul. and in some cases up to 1.2 million kilometers due to their characteristics. Powerful motors make it possible to create a high commercial speed of cargo delivery over long distances. For example, a 500 horsepower DC-13 engine delivers 90% of maximum torque in less than 2 seconds. A peak of 2,450 Newton meters is achieved in a wide range of speeds, from 1050 to 1400 minute. 1. Fuel consumption, although not always within the values declared by the manufacturer, is not as great as one might expect. In particular, according to the technical reference book Trucks and Buses, consumption of fuel, oils, and technical fluids, Raddick Publishing House, 2005, for the Magnum 390/418T model it is 33 to 36.5 L/100 kilometers. For the Magnum 430/440 from 34 to 37 L, and for Magnum 480, within 36.5 to 41.9 L. But the carriers have more correct information. In particular, for the version with the 440 horsepower engine, the average consumption is 26 to 32 L/100 km in the spring-summer period and 29 to 35 L/100 kilometers in the autumn-winter period. The gearboxes of the B9 and B18 models are distinguished by good reliability and, with proper operation, do not create any problems. Based on the data of transport companies, 16-speed manual gearboxes take care of 700 to 800,000 kilometers. The robotic gearbox of the latest generation OptiDriver Plus has not yet taken root in Russia, but this is obviously a matter of the future. Its advantages are obvious. It is 60 kilograms lighter than the mechanics and gives a 3% fuel economy. Bridges, according to factory settings, nurse up to 1.5 million kilometers. Models 1345 and 1370 showed themselves excellently in our conditions. Sometimes they change the gearbox, as a rule, with a run of about 1 million kilometers. It depends on the operating conditions and experience of the driver. It happens that the Magnum main tractor works in a quarry, in the Russian Federation, and the driver shifts the gear up or down at the wrong time. For reference, during the entire existence of the official dealer of Renault trucks, the company Leon Avto, since 1994, the village of Selyatino, Moscow region, only 10 gearboxes have been replaced. The cooling system pump, unlike some competitor models, remains operational for 6 to 7 years. There are not so many such durable parts in modern trucks, since the manufacturer puts a certain service life into each part and is not interested in it being too long. Basically, the impeller of the pump itself wears out. Its cost in Russia is 634 euros. Disc brakes on all wheels provide a stable hold of a given direction of movement. They are characterized by fast maintenance and extended service life, lifetime increased by 20%. Their effectiveness has been confirmed by tests. Thanks to the emergency brake booster, they provide a deceleration of 7 meters per second where the norm provides for 5 ms/s. The brakes have an assisted hill start assist system, 5th generation EBS, ESP, ABS, and ASR. The mileage of Michelin tires on the front axle in Russian conditions is approximately 300 to 320,000 kilometers, on the rear, 360 to 400,000 kilometers. In other words, what the manufacturer guarantees, the machine takes care of. After welding, the tires are able to serve another 150 to 200,000 kilometers. True, along with French tires, carriers prefer to install Japanese Bridgestone, American Goodyear, Slovenian Sawa. The German Continental is used less often, although it is held in high esteem. Hitch heights on tractors can be varied with 4 fifth-wheel mounting options and low-profile tires. For the widest range, a 1,250 mm height SSU is used. For trailers of the new generation, 1,100 mm, for large volumes, 1,040 mm, and for towing mega trailers, 950 mm. Maintenance costs are kept as low as possible. Thus, the service life of air cylinders has been increased to 120,000 kilometers. The axle pins on the new generation Magnum do not require additional maintenance due to the greater amount of lubrication. The articulated joints of the front and rear suspension do not require maintenance.